Namo Amida Buddha. The Four Profound Thoughts Which Turn the Mind Towards Amida Dharma by Reverend Joshua Adrian Celia. Karma, the law of cause and effect. The sexual energy is extremely powerful, but if one does not keep it under control or does not sublimate it, then it will constitute an immense obstacle against liberation from samsara. There are many types of sexual misconduct mentioned in the sutras and treatises of various masters, like, for example, not being faithful to one's wife or husband, having sex with another's partner, with those who are underage, with non-humans, with someone of the same sex, with one's parents or blood relatives, a nun or a monk who took the precept of abstinence, to have sex in the wrong place, temples, outside of one's room, the wrong time during daytime, in the wrong orifices, anus or mouth, which are not made for sexual intercourse, sexual relations that are harmful, etc. Here are a few quotes on sexual misconduct and its consequences from Shakyamuni Buddha. Quote, if one has sex at an inappropriate time or place with someone who is not one's wife or not a woman, one is guilty of sexual misconduct. If one has sex with oneself or someone by the road, beside a pagoda or temple, or in an assembly, one is guilty of sexual misconduct. If one has sex with someone who, though under the protection of the king or parents or brothers, has kept a tryst or accepted one's invitation or payment, one is guilty of sexual misconduct. If one has sex beside a holy statue or painting or a corpse, one is guilty of sexual misconduct. One is guilty of sexual misconduct if, while having sex with one's wife, one thinks of her as another woman, or if, while having sex with another's wife, one thinks of her as one's own wife. Sexual misconduct can be grave or minor. If it is driven by strong afflictions, it is grave. If it is driven by weak afflictions, it is minor. Likewise, endless varieties of punishments in a future life are described for the wrong deed of sexual intercourse between two men. The one who commits misconduct with boys sees boys being swept away in the acid river, who cry out to him, and owing to the suffering and pain born of his deep affection for them, he plunges in after them. Abandoning sexual misconduct, he abstains from sexual misconduct. He does not get sexually involved with those who are protected by their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters, their relatives, or their Dharma, those with husbands, those who entail punishments, or even those crowned with flowers by another man. A disciple of the Buddha must not engage in licentious acts or encourage others to do so. Indeed, he must not engage in improper sexual conduct with anyone. A Buddha's disciple ought to have a mind of filial piety, rescuing all sentient beings and instructing them in the Dharma of purity and chastity. If instead he lacks compassion and encourages others to engage in sexual relations promiscuously, including with animals and even their mothers, daughters, sisters, or close relatives, he commits a parajika, major offense. No matter if some modern people disagree, the sutras, that is Shakyamuni Buddha's own words, but also the words of many Buddhist masters, like, for example, Gansen, the sixth patriarch of our school, describing the neighboring hells, Master Gansen comes to the so-called place of much suffering where, quote, are doomed to suffer such men as are guilty of sodomy. Here the victim, seeing the man he lusted with, embraces him with a passion like a hot flame, which completely consumes his body. After he has died, he comes to life again and runs away in great terror, but only to fall over a terrible precipice, where he is devoured by crows with flaming beaks and by foxes with mouths of flames. End quote. Gansen said he quoted that passage in his Oja Yosho from Mindfulness of the Right Dharma Sutra. So Shakyamuni Buddha and Master Gansen are very clear on what it means to engage in sexual misconduct and the karmic results of such an act. As in all Dharma matters, what Buddha said weighs more than the opinions of unenlightened beings of various times. To lie, to use harsh words and language, to speak ill of others, and engage in idle talk are the four non-virtuous karma of speech. Among lying, the worst is to lie about one's spiritual realizations, but any other lie creates delusion and distrust amongst family, friends, and other people. By using harsh words, one can hurt others, almost like beating or killing them, while by speaking ill of friends, families, and even sanghas, can be separated or slandered. Also, by engaging in idle talk, one spends his energy in useless speech and gossip that wastes one's own and others' time. Shakyamuni said, quote, "The disciple of the Buddha must not himself use false words in speech or encourage others to lie, nor lie by expedient means. He should not involve himself in the causes, conditions, methods, or karma of lying, saying that he has seen what he has not seen, or vice versa, or lying implicitly through physical or mental means. The disciple of the Buddha shall not praise himself and speak ill of others, or encourage others to do so. He must not create the causes, conditions, methods, or karma of praising himself and disparaging others. As a disciple of the Buddha, he should be willing to stand in for all sentient beings and endure humiliation and slander, accepting blame and letting sentient beings have all the glory. If instead he displays his own virtues and conceals the good points of others, thus causing them to suffer slander, he commits a parajiki, major offense." End quote. To be greedy or stingy makes one's experience, even from this life, to some degree similar to the suffering of pretas, hungry ghosts, and is a cause for birth thereafter death. The greedy person lives only for himself and suffers from a mental hunger that is never satisfied. Shakyamuni said, quote, "A disciple of the Buddha must not be stingy or encourage others to be stingy. He should not create the causes, conditions, methods, or karma of stinginess. As a bodhisattva, whenever a destitute person comes for help, he should give that person what he needs. If instead, out of anger and resentment, he denies all assistance, refusing to help with even a penny, a needle, a blade of grass, even a single sentence or verse or a phrase of Dharma, but instead scolds and abuses that person, he commits a parajiki, major offense." End quote. It is also said that one moment of powerful anger destroys the good ones that have been accumulated over many years of serious practice. This can also lead to killing or hurting others, as no one knows what one can be capable of when one plunges into deep anger. Shakyamuni Buddha said, quote, "A disciple of the Buddha shall not harbor anger or encourage others to be angry. He should not create the causes, conditions, methods, or karma of anger. As a disciple of the Buddha, he ought to be compassionate and filial, helping all sentient beings develop the good roots of non-contention. If instead he insults and abuses sentient beings, or even transformation beings, such as deities and spirits, with harsh words, hitting them with his fists or feet, or attacking them with a knife or a club, or harbors grudges even when the victim confesses his mistakes and humbly seeks forgiveness in a soft, conciliatory voice, the disciple commits a parajiki, major offense." End quote. Quote, "Do not speak harshly to anyone. Those who are harshly spoken to might retaliate against you. Angry words hurt others' feelings. Even blows may overtake you in return." End quote. To slander and abuse the Buddha Dharma is the most evil deed, because by destroying the Dharma, one does something worse than killing the bodies of beings. He actually takes away their chances of freedom from all births and deaths. To slander and destroy the Dharma is like killing all beings over and over again ad infinitum. Shakyamuni Buddha said, quote, "A Buddha's disciple shall not himself speak ill of the triple jewel or encourage others to do so. He must not create the causes, conditions, methods, or karma of slander. If a disciple hears but a single word of slander against the Buddha from externalists or evil beings, he experiences a pain similar to that of 300 spears piercing his heart. How then could he possibly slander the triple jewel himself? Hence, if a disciple lacks faith and filial piety towards the triple jewel, and even assists evil persons or those of aberrant views to slander the triple jewel, he commits a parajika, major offense." End quote. Master Tuan Wan said, quote, "If one says there is no Buddha Dharma, there is no bodhisattva, and there is no Dharma for bodhisattvas. Such views held firmly in the mind by one's own reasoning or by listening to others' teachings are called abusing the right Dharma. He who has committed the transgression of abusing the right Dharma will not be able to attain birth in the Pure Land, even though he has not committed any other evils. For what reason? The Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra says, those who abused the right Dharma will also fall into the great Avicii hell. When the period of one kalpa comes to an end, they will be sent to the great Avicii hell of another world. In this way, such evildoers will consecutively pass through 100,000 great Avicii hells. The Buddha thus did not mention the time of their release from the Avicii hell. This is because the transgression of abusing the right Dharma is extremely grave. Further, the right Dharma refers to the Buddha Dharma. Such ignorant persons have abused it. Therefore, it does not stand to reason that they should seek rebirth in a Buddha land, does it? End quote. Each negative action causes 4 types of karmic effects. These are 1. The fully ripened effect, 2. The effect similar to the cause, 3. The conditioning effect, and 4. The proliferating effect. 1. The fully ripened effect. To do any one of the above 10 transgressions while motivated by hate and cruelty causes one to be born in the hells. To do any of them while motivated by desire, greed, and attachment causes rebirth as a preta, hungry spirit, and while motivated by ignorance leads to rebirth in animal form. Also, virtuous action stained by all the mind's poisons, with no particular poison predominating, causes birth in the human realm. Virtuous action stained by jealousy and rivalry, by doing something good only to prove one's superior qualities, are causes to be born in the Ashura demigod's realm. And virtues stained by pride causes rebirth among the gods in the world of desire. If we do any of the 10 transgressions for a long and constant period of time, while motivated by a very strong intention, like extreme desire, anger, or ignorance, we end up in hells. If the intention is not so strong and the period of doing any of the transgressions is not long, then we are reborn as pretas. And if it is not strong, but it is done continually for a long period of time, it causes rebirth in animal form. 2. The effect similar to the cause. When those who were born in one of the lower realms, due to the fully ripened effect of their karma, are reborn again in human form, they experience the effects similar to the cause. Also, even in the lower realms, there are various sufferings that come from particular causes. The effects similar to the cause are of 2 kinds: actions similar to the cause and experience similar to the cause. The first means the inclination to do actions that were the cause of the previous rebirth in one of the lower realms. For example, if we killed, we still have the inclination to kill. If we stole, we have the tendency to steal. If we practice sexual misconduct, we feel attracted to such behavior, etc. This explains why even from early childhood some enjoy killing animals or insects, stealing others' belongings, or feel the urge to do any of the 10 transgressions. Innate tendencies usually show us what we used to do constantly in previous lives. The experiences similar to the cause mean that because we did one or many of the 10 transgressions in a previous life, we are now receiving some specific misfortunes related to them. For example, if we killed in a past life, the present life will be short or plagued by frequent or constant disease. Thus, some die as infants due to their karma of killing, while others live sickly lives until death. If, in a previous life, we took what was not given, we now experience poverty, or we suffer from robbery and various misfortunes, which results in never having enough or losing what we gained with hard work. If we practice sexual misconduct, we will experience unbalanced relationships with lots of fighting, arguing, and various other difficulties. If we lied, we are now lied to by others. We are criticized, belittled, not taken seriously, or falsely accused. If we used harsh words and language, we are now hit back with offensive and insulting words. And whatever we say will be a cause for problems in our lives. If we spoke ill of others and sowed the seeds of discord, we are now in difficulty to get along with friends, associates, or people with whom we try to have various social or work relations. Also, our employees or people under our leadership do not get along well, do not listen to what they are told, are argumentative and recalcitrant, etc. If we engage in idle talk, our words in this life will carry no weight and we will not be believed when we speak the truth. Also, we'll have difficulties when speaking in front of large crowds, and we'll lack self-confidence. If we were greedy and full of avarice in a past life, we will continue to feel an unsatisfied hunger for possessions, and we'll meet various adverse circumstances that will cause us trouble in fulfilling such desires. If we were angry and wished harm on others, we will live in fear and suffer various harms many times in our present lives. If we supported wrong views in a past life, and after spending some time in the lower realms, we will continue to be influenced by false beliefs and will be easily deceived in spiritual matters or disturbed by various misconceptions. Namo Amida Buddha.